Boom, we're live. Lori, how are you?
Hey, Jim, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, and it is hot today.
It is extremely hot.
That's right. I was telling Lori earlier that I was pumping gas, and I actually started sweating on the top of my bald head while I was pumping gas. I was out there like 30 seconds. Matter of fact, I didn't even fill up my car because I'm like, I don't want to sweat before my podcast. But anyway, so Lori Johnson is a vice president at Hancock Whitney Bank right here on Range Avenue in Denham Springs.
I'm actually at the one on Florida Boulevard.
Florida Boulevard in Denham Springs, and McKee's going to edit that out and make sure that we get that right. But Florida Boulevard in Denham Springs, and is a very well-known person here locally. You do a lot of marketing in the area. You do you do a lot of things with the chamber. You do a lot of things with B&I. You give a lot of yourself to the public as far as your time and things like that. And I appreciate that, which is why I reached out to Lori. I thought she would be a really good story for today and kind of promote her a little bit. So tell me a little bit about your family and your and how long you've lived in the area.
So my husband's name is Josh, and we have 3 kids. Zach is 22, and then we have a daughter, Bailey, who's 21, and then our little one, Callie, she just turned 11 a couple of weeks ago. The older 2 graduated from Denham Springs High School, and the little one is going to junior high this year at Jubin Park. So she's excited about that.
Awesome.
I actually moved to Denham Springs when I was in the 1st grade. So we lived in Baton Rouge, and it was a schooling issue. So my parents decided that they wanted to move over in this area. And in the 80s, that's what we did. And I've gone to school out here since 1st grade, so it's pretty much my hometown. I've been here my whole life.
Yeah, this is home to you.
Definitely.
I say it all the time. I've been out here 21 years now, and this is home to me. I actually grew up in Baton Rouge, married a girl out here, and this is where I ended up, and probably one of the best decisions I ever made, including marrying my wife if she's watching this.
She's great.
Yeah, she's awesome. So you have some athletics in your family. You got some athletes, and you got a husband that's a very talented cook. Yeah. Boudin balls at Big Mike's.
Yes, he has been supplying the boudin for Big Mike's for a little while now. He loves that. I love when I come home from work and he's been cooking. Like, I don't ever want a candle in my house again. That's the best smell ever, is that boudin broth. And we've learned to get kind of creative with that. You can drink that like soup. You can make stuff with it. It's so good, but he really enjoys that. And then our son, he played sports in high school. And our older daughter, she plays softball at LSUA. Oh, wow. So she's going to be a senior in college this year.
That's awesome.
And then our little one, she plays a little bit of basketball, but I think we did the travel ball so much with the other 2. She's just kind of her own little person. She doesn't care.
Yeah, I bet. And he probably honed his skills cooking on those travel ball schedules. And
he actually owned a restaurant years before I met him.
Really? Yeah, I did not know that.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, he and his uncle owned a restaurant, and so that's just his passion. He loves to cook, and obviously he's good at it, you know. And he likes to play a lot of golf. Yeah. He does that a lot, but it just...
Awesome guy.
He went back to work at the plant, which I'm grateful, because that's how I was able to meet him through a mutual friend at a Christmas party. But okay. But I still get the good side where he cooks a lot.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Trust me. And I see pictures on Facebook. Y'all got the pit out there, and there's a bunch of people around, and I'm salivating online at his cooking. Love good food. So how long have you been in the banking industry?
I just celebrated my 25-year anniversary on July 3rd.
Wow.
Yes.
That's pretty amazing.
Yes. Wow. I was excited to reach that milestone.
And of course, you've seen Hancock Whitney Bank go through a lot of changes. You were on the Whitney side originally?
I was.
Okay.
I was.
Okay.
So when I came into banking in 1995, Whitney, we were pretty much new to the Baton Rouge area. We came in and took over the Metropolitan Bank. Not many people even knew what that bank was. It was on Sherwood Forest, a little one branch bank here. And then they bought all the Baton Rouge banks. And I came in right after that merger.
Awesome.
So, and of course, Whitney was a big commercial bank out of New Orleans.
Yeah.
And then Hancock, based out of Hancock County in Mississippi. It was just when those two companies merged together, it was like the perfect marriage.
Yeah.
They're really a great, great company.
Yeah. And you started out, so which branch were you at when you first started with Whitney?
So I started as a part-time teller. And that I was 18 years old, and that was supposed to, just be a temporary thing. Well, they had all these programs and incentives. So what I did is I went and got certifications through. They had AIB and classes that you could take, and the bank would essentially pay for this night school as long as you maintain passing grades. So I took advantage of all those things when I was younger. And then I've done everything on the retail side, from being a proof operator to a teller, just regular customer service, doing the audits to managing a branch.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I've got to do it all. It's been fun. It
Literally
really has.
From the bottom to the top there and everything in between. That's a big deal, especially when you're looking for a knowledgeable banker, somebody that really knows all facets of banking. Banking is, I would imagine, I'm talking like I'm in the industry, but I would imagine banking has a lot of facets to it because you do so many different things. You probably do investments. You do just regular checking accounts for everybody. You do savings accounts. You do money market accounts and all these things. And so a knowledgeable banker that you can reach out to is like gold, in my opinion. And you certainly have a lot of experience behind.
Yeah, and it is a lot. And you're right. All the different products and services and the things that you want to help your client with, you want to make sure they're in the best product to make sure it's servicing their needs.
Gotcha.
And that's what I like about Hancock Whitney, because we have so many different products where we can help the most wealthiest just to the person just starting out. We have something for everybody.
That's awesome. Now did you ever work at the Whitney Bank that was inside the Super Kmart on Millerville?
I did for a brief little period. So that was our only Saturday bank at one time. And I would work there sometimes on Saturdays.
That's funny.
It was small.
Yeah, it was. And I'll tell you how I know so much about that. I think we discussed this before, but I actually worked for Super Kmart on Millerville, and I remember you from way back then. And there was, when I first met Lori, I kept thinking, I know her from somewhere. I'm great with faces, horrible with names, which sometimes is good and sometimes not when you're a salesperson. Always remember both, but I'm really great with faces. If I come across somebody, it don't matter for whatever reason, what time frame it was. I always look at that person. I'm like, man, I know them from somewhere. And me and Lori had a one-to-one through our BNI at one point, and she mentioned that she worked at the Super Kmart on Millerville, and I'm like, that's where I know her from. But many moons ago, I actually dated a girl that worked at Whitney Bank at that site. So we'll talk about that another time. But just an interesting story. Now, I was like 18 years old back then. I was a young cat, but I worked there a while through college and things like that. So interesting. Now, let me ask you this. What there's a lot of technological changes that have occurred over 25 years, I'm sure. I can remember when I thought the coolest thing in the world was to have an ATM card. That blew my mind. I'm like, I don't have to talk to somebody to get money out. So I'm sure you've seen things from, we had the advent of the ATM machine. You had all of a sudden there's online checking, automated tellers, all these sort of things. I'm sure there's the technology over that time frame that you've seen has just been tremendous and probably made your job a little bit easier.
Actually, I mean, it's funny you say that because it really has. It gives clients more convenience to do their banking. I can remember on Friday payday, the teller line would be wrapped around the building with people coming to cash their payroll checks. And people don't really have to do that anymore because they have the direct deposit. They do use their debit cards. A funny story, like when we bought First National Bank of Gonzales, they didn't even have computers.
Wow.
Their tellers did everything by an adding machine, you know? So I can even remember back when you didn't have those, you know, things. But it really has, with the online banking and the mobile banking, it just makes life easy, but it still doesn't separate that human interaction that we still need sometimes, you know, which is great. And that's why, you know, I stressed everybody, I talk about this in our BNI, you need to have a banker. And that's why, because it's easy to take a picture of your check and make that deposit. But then what if there's a glitch or something doesn't happen? You didn't do it right, your fault, you know, anything can happen. Have someone you can call. So I still like to, you know, share that with my clients, to use these, you know, these things and make your life simple, but we're still here if you need somebody.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Human interaction is very important. People aren't cookie cutters. And the advent of the internet and all these sort of things, it's brought some great technology to the table as far as time savings. You can go online and apply for a loan right now and be approved or denied in 30 seconds. Right. The problem with that is people aren't cookie cutters. And so there are extenuating circumstances that a computer program just is not going to be able to compute, so to speak. You may need to go in and talk to a banker and say, hey, here's the scenario, here's what happened. And that may be the difference between getting approved and denied. The human aspect is important. I know a lot of banks have gone to where you actually go through you go through the line to make a deposit, and you're going through what do they call it? The pass-through line. Drive-through. Thank you. McHugh's always handy for stuff like that. So you go through the drive-through and you put your little bag in and you push the button, it shoots through. But there's some banks now where it's like you push the button and someone comes on the screen. And there's positives and negatives to that. I'm not a huge fan of that because I believe banking sometimes requires a little more personal action. I do understand, though, that technology is really coming to a point where a lot of companies just aren't allowed a choice. Farrell Calhoun's a good example of that I'll bring up real quick. We, up until about 4 years ago, were using 3-part dot matrix printers to print out invoices. And that sounds insane. Literally, we'd sit there and tear the thing. We'd give the customer their copy. We'd keep a copy. The reason we did that was it worked. It gave the customer the receipt, and it didn't cost anymore. When we looked at how much it would cost to add all these clouds and all these things, it was just ridiculous. And we were like, we'd rather put that in profit sharing until we are absolutely forced to do it. Well, we got forced to do it every time. And the reason is the flood happened and we didn't have a cloud set up here locally. And so it was like we learned a hard lesson on that, and we were kind of forced to do it. And now that we've done it and made that jump, it was like we should have done that years ago. But sometimes you don't realize that until your arm's kind of twisted. One thing I do like about Hancock Whitney is, of all the banks, and the banking industry is a huge industry. It has some giants. I mean, they've got, a lot of those are worldwide banks. Hancock Whitney is more of a regional bank. So it has more of that feel, that regional atmosphere. I look at it as a Southern bank, and rather than a national, I don't even want to mention other banks, but large national chains, I guess, or whatever you would call it. And there's an appeal to that. one thing I was really happy to see Hancock Whitney do was they're the official sponsor of the New Orleans Saints and the LSU Tigers. I know you're not a huge football fan or Tiger fan at all. She is, actually. But that was pretty impressive considering you got that sponsorship away from a pretty major bank.
Right.
And I was happy to see that because I feel like it's important for the regional banks to get their names out there, just like those national people and worldwide folks. Did you see like a rush whenever y'all took over that sponsorship for those debit cards? Was everybody calling?
We could not get them out fast enough.
Really?
Everybody wanted that debit card with that eye of the tiger. I mean, you have one.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. We
Yeah.
all love to, use it. And every time I pull it out of my wallet and use it somewhere, people comment on it. And it's a great conversation starter for me, obviously being a banker. But I mean, it was just great. I was proud to see that we were doing that. It was not only for the promotional side of it, but just the community side of it, because everyone here loves LSU Tigers.
Yeah.
And it brought it all together. And it made it, obviously easy to sell. I think we did actually get some checking accounts from that because people wanted that debit card, which was
Absolutely.
great. And I think what our hope is that they would come in wanting the debit card, but then just be intrigued with the service they got from the banker and the bank itself. And we would make them a client and grow that relationship.
Yeah, I agree. And, you've been with them for so long, Lori, 25 years, as you just said. What's your, that's a long time. That's a long time to be at one company. It's very impressive, but there has to be, what is it about Hancock Whitney that really keeps you fired up every day to go there to work?
Well, I think for the one thing is I've been fortunate that I didn't get up every day for 25 years and go to the same job, same desk, same place. The monotony was broken up. I've worked at several different locations. I've worked under so many different leaders, some really great leaders. I've been able to, like I said, move around in different roles. So that helped break it up. But for me, one of the best career moves I've made was in the last 2 years, just coming back home, coming back to Denham Springs. That has just been wonderful. I was in Central for a long time and I loved it out there. I really did. This is my home though. And this is, it's just good to be back. There's so many old familiar faces that I see. I got friends that call me, they bank with Hancock Whitney, and maybe they didn't even realize I worked there because I wasn't, in Livingston Parish. And so that's nice. I get texts or phone calls all the time. Hey, can you help with this? And I miss that. I love helping my clients where they're, friends, family, clients. I want to be able to be there for them. So that's been really nice.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. And, it's whenever you find longevity somewhere to that length, and I can relate to that, it's more of a passion than a job. It's almost, it is. It's a part of your personality. It's you don't know what you do if you woke up without going to Hancock Whitney, or in my case, going to my job. So, but it also speaks to who you are as an employee, that obviously they kept you around for 25 years. Obviously, you've done a great job, and I'm sure they're very, very proud of your work. Interest rates for home loans. Let's talk about that for a second. So they're at like a historic low right now. If you're someone and you're paying, 4.5%, 5%, you probably need to look into refinancing, because you can probably save you a little bit of money, I would imagine, with rates as low as they are. Have y'all seen a jump in your refinance department?
Yeah, our mortgage lender has been extremely busy doing, well, believe it or not, he's doing refis, but there's a lot of sales going on right now too. You would think with COVID there wouldn't be, but sales are really up.
Yeah.
Our home equity rates are really, really good. We're seeing a lot of that right now as well. I'm sorry, would you ask about the COVID?
I'm getting to that, but especially with COVID coming around right now, it doesn't seem to affect the housing market. It hasn't seemed to affect it as far as the sales and the people requesting loans. I'm sure are they're still coming in. I think there's a correlation between the market being so low right now and the fact that people are just they're jumping at the chance to go in there and refinance or if they've had their eye on a house. And, you know, some people still do look and say, I can afford $1,500 a month, and until I can get my note down to $1,500, I'm not going to buy this house.
Right, and now is the absolute time to take advantage of that. And even if you're not looking in the housing market to move necessarily, any kind of debt that you can restructure right now. And I mean, you can probably almost cut these interest rates in half. If you have credit card debt and you have equity in your home, you need to be using that. You know, number one, that's going to get you that paid off quicker and you're going to save so much money. You know, I do the math for people all the time. Not only, I mean, sometimes you could save them $500 a month. That's a lot of money. We got 3 kids. I mean, you know.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I mean,
a lot.
if you're carrying credit card debt at you know, average credit card debt's probably around 15%, 20%, if I'm guessing. So I would imagine if you could knock that down to, you know, 3.5%, 4% or whatever.
That's a huge thing.
Oh, it's and you're paying towards a principal loan instead of just basically a revolving debt that every month you're really just paying the interest on that credit card if you're not completely paying it off. So, yeah, that's a huge advantage right now. And that's a good point for those people that do have a little bit of debt on their credit cards. This is a way to pay those things off, chop them up, and really invest your money.
We've also seen, I mean, there's still people that have credit card debt out there from the flood, you know, that they didn't have flood insurance, or even if they did, maybe they didn't get enough. And now that they're back in their homes and they're put back together, that value has come back up. So we're able to take that value and help get them out of that credit card debt.
Right. And there were a lot of folks that, like you say, they had insurance, but the issue was they didn't have contents insurance. Probably. And I don't know, McHugh probably knows the exact number because he's a brainiac, but it's probably upwards of 90-something% that had, they had, you know, say flood insurance, not 90%, but 90% of the people that have flood insurance probably did not have contents insurance, if I'm guessing. I know I did not.
According to FEMA, it's close to 50-50.
Really? That's surprising that it was even that. But so you imagine even if your house is rebuilt, if you had $150,000 worth of contents, you got to buy all that again. I mean, it's just gone, which sucks. Trust me. So let's talk about networking for a little while. You're involved in a lot of things. You were a board member at one point for the Chamber of Commerce. You're a BNI member, which is, of course, probably the most well-known networking type organization, certainly locally. How much do you think that benefits like a bank? And the reason I ask that question, so Jolene Ott, who Miss Jolene, just about everybody in Denham Springs knows.
Everybody knows
most
Miss
people
Jolene.
in Livingston Parish. She is one of the sweetest ladies you'll ever meet. And Miss Jolene Ott was in your role before she retired, and you took over her role here. So she was an active networker. She was in BNI. She was, I believe she was a Leadership Livingston graduate, if I'm not mistaken, like you and like me and like Q. So networking for me, just saying it from my aspect, has been a big thing, but it was also a big thing for Hancock Whitney in my eyes, because that when of course, and I switched to Hancock Whitney when Miss Jolene was there, but she was kind of the reason I switched, in that she gave me the information I needed to know that I wanted to do banking business with Hancock Whitney. I wasn't very happy with my bank that I had at the time, but what do you think? Do you think there's a big advantage to that networking that you do? Do you see a return on the time you spend, I guess?
Absolutely, you do. So number one, I get to promote the company while I'm out, obviously, but people can drive up and down the road and see Hancock Whitney Bank. So what I like to do is go out there, and actually sell that company to them. Like, this is why you need to bank with us. This is what we could do for you. And again, like I'm told you, I'm big on, everyone having a banker. It gives me that opportunity to tell them why they need a banker and what I can do for them as their personal banker. That makes a big difference. I have a big team that I can bring in, our business bankers, our treasury services, our merchant reps. We have a whole team that we bring in when we're trying to onboard a new client. And especially if it's one that they're going to need all these services down the road, just to let them know we're here for you and how we can make this transition easy.
Yeah.
Some people are scared of that, think, I got to change everything. And it really can be simplified, and we're here to help them with that.
It will. And you're absolutely right. It'll blow your mind from a customer or a client or a banking customer standpoint, in that you're like, wow, I've got to shift my money from this bank to this bank. And I hesitated on it for a while, and I was not happy with my bank, but the hesitation was not from the aspect of, I'm not sure if I want to do this. It was from the aspect of, this is going to be a bunch of red tape I don't know if I want to deal with, because, now probably the majority of people out there, they're doing direct deposits, through their employer. And so in my mind, I'm like, I got to change my direct deposit. I got to change my wife's direct deposit. And it was funny, because I reached out to you and I said, we're just going to go ahead and change our direct deposits to Hancock Whitney and all those sorts of things. And it took all of about a 5-minute phone call, and it was done. And I'm like, man, I stressed over this in my head for months, and it was that easy. But it's because I'm not on that side of the coin, I don't see how easy that is. It's really a simplified process. So I would encourage anyone to if look up Hancock Whitney, check them out, listen to this podcast, of course, and if you're not happy with your bank, I've been very happy with Hancock Whitney personally. Now, with COVID dominating all the business climate right now, businesses have had to kind of comply with CDC recommendations, the governor's office recommendations and things like that. I know there's people out there, and they're concerned, and legitimately so, that they want to make sure that where they're doing business, that they're following guidelines and things like that. What has Hancock Whitney kind of done to make the public feel safe, I guess, when they go to the bank?
Well, I mean, certainly we've complied with everything with the CDC and, their guidelines and recommendations. And, during the time where we had our lobbies closed for a while, on May 15th, when the governor put us in phase 2, we did reopen the lobbies. What we've done, though, is we've increased things in the drive-through that you could do, where before, non-clients weren't allowed to use the drive-through. We've made that convenience for them. Not only a convenience, a safety issue for clients and associates. We've installed the plexiglass in the teller line, the little partition. They're on the desk for the bankers. We have the social distancing guidelines, obviously. The mask mandate, we are doing that in the financial centers as well as in between every client. I will sanitize my desk, get up. The tellers will do it. They're constantly going around, wiping down everything, And it was funny because I was talking to our bankers this morning, and I was saying, look, we got to make sure we remember to do that. And I was like, nobody would be mad if they had to wait for a minute while you sanitize something, especially not right now, you know. So the company has been very, very good of keeping us informed and giving us tools to make sure that we can do that. What we obviously don't want to happen is an entire branch come down with any kind of symptoms, and it takes everyone out. So they have really, really helped us to make sure we're staying safe and keeping our clients safe. Our CEO, he comes out every week with a message, and he's just so informative. And, even he'll admit, hey, look, we got to wear the mask. Sometimes I forget. If you see me without it, tell me, and I appreciate that. But they've been doing, just like everybody else, just wanting to obviously us all get through this, but to keep everyone safe while we're doing it.
Right. So, following on to what you just said, and you make good mention when you talk about the fact that we're kind of doing everything from a business standpoint to make the public feel safe, but also protect our own employees. And that's really a key thing with COVID that I find with a lot of businesses. With the business I'm in, for example, if we have an employee, we've got like 3 guys there. So if one of those employees came down with COVID, we would have to shut that entire store down. And we don't have people like on the side that we can move in there and continue to run that store. The people are right here. I would be the one. And trust me, you would love it. But at the same time, I'm only one man. So we have to be very cautious because a bank or a paint store, any type of business that you have, if somebody comes down with that and you cannot replace them, you literally have to like shut your door down. Correct. And nobody wants that for any business, even for a temporary period of time. So I'm glad that y'all are really taking the bull by the horns and doing everything you can do as a company to combat, COVID. So you do all these things. You work at Hancock Whitney for 25 years. You're married and you go on baseball adventures with your kids and all these sorts of things. What do you do for fun, Lori? Where do you find time for like Lori to where you can kick back and have a little fun?
So I belong to a boot camp, Fit Body Boot Camp in Denham Springs. I go there with my friends. I love that. That's kind of my little outlet. But it's funny because before you would always think, what did you do? And you couldn't really pinpoint it. And then during COVID, when there was nothing to do, we started doing a lot of fishing. And I've just really enjoyed that. I forgot how much we liked to do that. You couldn't really spend your time fishing when you were, at the ball tournament and things like that. But we've been doing a lot of that lately. I used to bowl. We used to bowl in the league. We kind of got out of that. But if bowling alleys would ever open back up again, that seems like we might have a little bit of time where we could fit that back in. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love to bowl too.
Yeah.
I don't know what I bowl right now, though. That's a scary thing. I used to get over 200 pretty consistently. Yeah. Now I don't know. But yeah, and I know you outside of the podcast and just a great person, super fun to hang out with, and a ball of joy is Lori. So we're going to have a little fun. So I ask, typically with my podcast, I ask a totally unrelated question, and it's just something to kind of let people, get to know the person a little better. But in your case, I wanted to do something funner. So we're going to have a game, and it's going to be McHugh against Lori, the man behind the camera, and what the winner. So this is a nickel, but this is what they call a war nickel. This is 35% silver. My good friend Chuck Marchafava at the coin shop in Watson gave me this and said, give this to whoever wins that trivia game. And just to give you a little history about the war nickel. Now, a lot of people don't know, but I collect coins. That's a hobby of mine, been my whole life. And the war nickel, which was made in, I think it was 41 to 44, was basically invented because they needed all the metal that was in a nickel for the war, World War II. And so they started putting silver in war nickels, or in nickels, and they called them war nickels. So they were 35% silver. And right now, I don't know if you paid attention to the silver market in the past few days, but it's up like $4 an ounce, which is huge. I mean, the chart's like, So anyway, the winner gets that. Thank you, Chuck. March of 5 at the coin shop. So what I'm going to do is it's going to be a little trivia game, all to do with money. I thought that'd be fun.
Goodness.
So
you just told me I got the smartest guy in Denham Springs here, and you're going to make me compete trivia with you.
First and foremost, notice that title is unearned. Unearned, and it sounds like it's skewed in your direction.
So we're gonna do this. These are fun questions. So first question is what is typically the lifespan of a $1 bill? In other words, from the time to which that has to be returned to the U.S. Mint, because it's just, you can't even recognize it anymore. It looks like a paper towel. What do you think the lifespan in years would be of a $1 bill? You take the first guess.
Oh my goodness. So I've seen them old as dirt, literally.
On average.
50 years.
What's your guess?
23.
Believe it or not, and I would have been up there also, 18 months.
Wow.
Fun fact,
Did not
as
know
the
that.
denomination increases, so does the lifespan, which makes a lot of sense. If it's a $100 bill, it's going to last a lot longer than a $1 bill. $100 bill actually lasts 9 years on average. So there's your answer there. So 0 to 0. All right. How many double folds forward and backward would it take before a bill will tear? And now, this is just going to be closest to. How many times do you think you could do this before you're going to tear a bill?
Am I going first?
You go first.
So one fold, that's one fold, two fold.
Well, it'd be one would be back and forth, two back and forth, three
until
back
it rips
and
in
forth.
half?
Until it rips in half.
Okay.
How many before it tears?
9.
20.
4,000 times. You would have to go back and forth. She's closer, so it's 1-0.
What do you have to do?
This
A
is like
hydraulic press?
The price is right. Like, I just had to go
I was
one above
amazed as
him.
well. 4,000 times. What is the largest denomination of bill that the U.S. ever produced? You go first.
I've seen a $1,000 bill.
10 grand?
There are both of those. I just happen to know that. $100,000 bill.
Really?
Yep. Yep.
We don't have those in the vault.
No. If you ever get one, I'll buy it from you.
I'll let you know.
Okay, so yes, $100,000 bill. You were closer, so it's 1-1. What is the most counterfeited denomination of bill? What one is counterfeited more than any other denomination?
We see a lot of 20s.
5.
You're right. $20 bill is the most counterfeited. And just an interesting side note on that: the country that counterfeits the most bills of any denomination is North Korea. Surprisingly, I would have thought China, but it is North Korea.
I didn't know that.
So, all right, it's 2-1. You can get the tie right here. If not, you win. What coin actually costs more to produce than the face value of the coin? So if it's a quarter, does it cost more than 25 cents to produce it? There is a coin out there that actually costs more to produce than the face value. You know the answer. I'm going to look at you.
Oh, doggone it. I'm going to say the penny. I don't know.
The dime.
Penny is correct.
Because of the copper.
Because the copper, that's right. The penny actually cost 2 cents to produce, not 1. So that's kind of weird. Maybe we need to stop producing those copper pennies. So you win. Congratulations, Miss
Thank you,
Lori Johnson.
thank
You
you.
are the winner of a 35% silver nickel. Passing
Nice. Yes, thank you.
Now, let me ask you, where can people find Whitney Bank online and contact information, all that sort of stuff?
Sure. So if you go to HancockWhitney.com, that'll give you information on all of our locations. You can search by zip code, state, because we're all on the Gulf South. There's many, many locations and things to choose from. You can go online and open a checking account. You can search our checking accounts or any of our products and services for that matter. Our email's out there. I can give you my email, lori.ljohnson2@HancockWhitney.com if anyone would like to email me. Or
they can, if they want a checking account or they want a loan, just hit you up and she'll set up a meeting and
we'll get it taken care of.
Get you fixed up pronto. Also, I wanted to give you this. So I'm gonna start giving these to all my guests that come in because y'all are so awesome to take your time with me. This is a Local Leaders of the Podcast official mug or Turvis cup or whatever you want to call it.
I believe they're called tumblers.
Tumbler. Thank you. See, he's perfect. Tumbler from Local Leaders of Podcast. Now, this was made by Sporting Center, who is a sponsor of this show. Thank you so much, Sporting Center. So that comes courtesy of them.
Thank you. It's very nice.
You can fill that full of coffee or water or Fireball or whatever.
That's a lot of Fireball.
That's a lot of Fireball. Trust me. Yeah. So you can find Chapman's Paint Place Podcast on paintpodcast.com and on all social media, including YouTube, by simply searching Chapman's Paint Place Podcast. I would like to thank always the smartest guy in the room, McHugh David, for engineering the podcast.
Until you beat him in the money question.
Yes,
right?
That's right. The Livingston
We're past the title. Smartest lady in the room. Smartest person.
That's right. She is. Definitely smartest lady in the room. There's no doubt about it. The Livingston Bears news for the space. The diva of checking accounts, Lori Johnson of Hancock, Whitney Bank, for sitting down with me today, and all you podcast listeners for your support. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share this podcast so we can continue to bring you more. Until next time, I'm Jim Chapman, and just real quick, be on the lookout next week for Real Life, Real Crime. They're going to be on our podcast, and we're going to be talking about all kinds of interesting things to do with crime and all that fun stuff. So until next time, Jim Chapman, peace, love, and paint.